Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Speedcast coverage of this year's National Autosport Association National Championships. It's going to be a fantastic race here at Mid-Ohio. H1 green, green, green. Landrum, your pole sitter, did not get a great start. Good run for Martinez. He's going to look to the inside of Dabrowski coming up. We have a new leader, Mark Bennett, and both against together. Evasive maneuvers, Rocco's your national champion, Bernardo Martinez. Joe Fryman, Carl Troy, Griswold, Joe Moser, Jeff Birch.
The National Autosport Association 944 Cup National Championship is brought to you by Hardent, Manisport, Paddock Motorsport, and Toyo Tires.
Welcome to the 2008 NASA 944 Cup National Championships presented by Paddock Racing, Hardent, Manisport, and Toyo Tires. I'm Kevin Arnett, and Clark Cameron is here with me in the booth. Clark, why don't you tell us a little bit about this 944 Cup class?
Yeah, 944 Cup class is a class designed for front-engine water-cooled Porsches like the 944 and the 924. All these cars we'll be watching today are equipped with a 2.5-liter four-cylinder normally aspirated engine. Makes about 150 horsepower. These cars are allowed some modification. They're allowed to change shock absorbers, but they have to run on a DOT-approved tire. And the rules are really designed to make the cars as close as possible and make the racing affordable for these drivers.
Well, the field's forming up. We're almost ready for the green. Let's take a look at last year's 944 Cup Championship. Joe Rimac led the 944 Cup field from the pole. He's closely followed by Chris Brady and rookie Evan Brum. Rimac slowly built a gap on the field, while a great battle developed between Brady, Brum, and Eric Coons. With 5 laps left, Coons slipped by Brum to take over third, but Brum battled back to retake the final step on the podium with a last lap pass. At the checkered, it was Joe Rimac with a dominant victory over Chris Brady and Evan Brum. Well, let's take a look at the starting grid for today's race.
Scott Bove will start on the pole with Bill Comat starting alongside. Chris Green starts third. Charles Mason fourth, and Ernie Jakubowski will start fifth.
John Balakis is next in the field. Evan Brum will start seventh. Brant Gier will start eighth. Ninth is Case Crowell, and the 10th starter is Christian Cook.
And we should mention that there's actually 2 other classes competing on the racetrack today. 944 Super Cup, which is the group of 5 cars that we see ahead of the large Cup field we see streaming into Turn 2 right now. And then behind the 944 Cup competitors, we have Spec Ford Focus. So we may see them as the 944 Cup cars come through to lap those cars later on in the race.
Coming down the back straight now for the start of the event will be Bove and Comat out in front.
On board with Chris Green right now, starting in third spot. Coming down for the green, and the green is out. We're racing.
Bove with the slight lead. Let's see what happens as they come to the back straight here, and it's Green, Chris Green jumping to the outside, making a move past Bove. Looks like Charles Mason got past him as well. Oh, and off the track.
I believe that's Balakis that slid off.
John Balakis off the track down into China Beach. Meanwhile, Bill Comat has the lead, Chris Green second, and Bove now sits in third.
Wild start, Chris Green with a bold inside move going into 4. Drops Bove back to third, and Comat comes out with the lead. So now cold tires, these guys got to be careful. These cars we've seen in the past tend to be kind of loose on cold tires. Now on board with Jakubowski, riding in 5th. Mason just ahead. Bove's going to look to the outside of Green. Oh, and Bove slides off. Looks like they may have touched a little bit. Bove slides off, and that's going to move Green up into second.
So it's Bill Comat out in front as they come down and start the official lap number 1.
And Jakubowski looks like he's taking a look at the inside of Mason. We'll see as they come out of 1. Yep, Jakubowski slides by. That's going to move Mason out. And now we see these guys going 3 wide into turn 2.
That's Mason, Geary, and Brum all battling for the 4th position there.
And just ahead of those guys, we can see Jakubowski. Brum sliding up behind of Geary, trying to get a run down the back straightaway. So Comat continues to lead in that Riviera Blue 944. Second place is going to be Chris Green, Jakubowski third, and then a great battle for 4th between Geary, Brum, and Mason. Mason looks to the inside. Brum gets sideways. Mason's going to take over the spot from Geary. Brum sideways again. Randolph closes up now. Randolph looking to the outside, going into 5. Randolph slides wide, and he's going to spin off. Steve Randolph spun off on the outside of turn 5. We'll see if he continues on. We're looking for him coming out of 6. There he is. He's going to lose a lot of positions, though. That's a bummer for Randolph.
That's got to be tough to get back on the track after you go off there to get back up to speed and blend in with the rest of the field.
Yeah, and hopefully no damage on that machine. He did go off at a fairly high rate of speed. It's easy to bounce the nose and hurt something. We're going to go to a replay of the Beauvais spin in just a moment here. Beauvais sliding off. He's able to continue. He slid off in the carousel. And here we go. We see Green slides up the inside. It looks like Green may have locked up the inside rear just a little bit. We'll take a look here again. And you can see Green laying rubber. It just, that's a slippery section of track. Tough to go too wide there. And unfortunately, I think Green may have gotten into the side of Beauvais a little bit, and it kicks Beauvais off the side of the track.
Back to live action now as Bill Comat continues to lead, and it looks like Ernie Jakubowski is up to challenge Green for 2nd place.
Yeah, Jakubowski looking very strong here. Very quick car.
Your 5-time winner in the Great Lakes region.
Yeah, Jakubowski actually the Great Lakes and the Canada Cup champion, 2 regional championships that he ran this year.
Yeah, looks like he'll take the spot away from Chris Green.
We'll see, though. We've seen this before. We'll see if Chris Green can fight back on the outside, and he does.
There he is.
Yep, Chris Green able to run the rim, hangs on to the spot.
Looks like Green might be a little loose there as they come through the S's and into turn 5 and 6.
Yeah, Green is definitely struggling to hang on to that spot. Jakubowski clearly the quicker car at this point. And this is the best thing that Comat could hope for. Comat's going to try and break away while these guys fight it out.
Only a limited number of spots for these cars to pass on this 12-turn race course here at Mid-Ohio.
And we can see Jakubowski closing up, going into the carousel. And Green also able to close up on Comat. They'll come onto the front straightaway here, and coming out of turn 1 is probably Jakubowski's one of his best spots to try and pass. So he'll drop back just a bit and try and make a run through 1. We'll see if he can get it done going into 2.
Here they are coming off of 1 towards the keyhole.
And you can see he got a very good run. He's going to try it on the outside. Tough place to pass. We'll see if he can get it done going into 2. Got the slight advantage. He's going to slide wide. We'll see if he tries the Earnhardt move here.
Yeah, it does a crossover, it looks like. He's up alongside
good
now.
Good run down the back straightaway. I think he's going to get it done this lap. Up the inside of Green. And Green, you can see Green kind of
doesn't want to give it up, does he?
Juking over, trying to force Jakubowski down to the inside. But Jakubowski will slot into 2nd. Now he's going to put the pressure on Comat.
These drivers are pretty clean racers, I'd say.
Yeah, these guys race with each other all year long. It's a really tight-knit group, and they're all 3 of these drivers are actually from Canada, so I think they're trying to keep it in the family here.
Well, I know Comat and Jakubowski have run together in a number of events. Comat finishing 2nd to Jakubowski at least 3 different times in the Great Lakes region.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, those 2 have run the Targa Newfoundland rally a couple of times. They've won that rally together a couple of times. And now Jakubowski putting pressure on Comat. See, Comat takes a very wide line through the carousel there. Lets the back end slide out before he tucks in for a double apex.
Coming up on the same place that he got by Green here off of turn 1, coming down into the keyhole. They really slide around that turn 1, don't they, Clark?
Yeah, that corner is very quick, and they really cook through there. And now there's actually there's a bit more runoff because there's a cutoff road there that's used for a school course here, and so you see the drivers using even that bit of road. Again, Jakubowski tries the outside-in move. Doesn't get quite as good a run.
It looked like maybe Green blocked him off from getting back to the inside there as they came off the turn.
Yeah, Green shoved his nose in there, and you can see Ernie juke over to the inside to make sure Green doesn't get a draft. Ernie trying to kind of break the draft there. So Comat will hold on to the lead for another lap going into turn 4. And Comat drifting out a little bit, missed the apex a bit there.
I wonder how much Comat's got his eyes on the rearview mirror at this point, checking out Jakubowski.
Yeah, absolutely. Comat won the Saturday qualifying race. Jakubowski finished second. That's the only dry race they've done all week. Most of their sessions have been in the wet. So, obviously Comat's got to be feeling good about his chances, but Ernie's very quick right now. He's definitely the strongest car on the track, I think, at the moment. So once again through the carousel, on board with Chris Green. Green actually has a karting and Formula car background, similar background to what I come from. Ran Formula Fords in Canada. I believe he's done some time in a Formula BMW as well. And he is very quick today, looking good in that red car, number 55. It looks like Jakubowski got a good run. He'll pull alongside Comat, entering the keyhole. Try and make a pass attempt as they go into turn 2.
As now Jakubowski once again, it seems to be his favorite place at the track to make a pass as they come through the keyhole. He's setting him up for that crossover once again.
Yep, so Jakubowski will nip to the inside. Very good run off the keyhole. And he's going to take over that position. Actually, it's time to pull back ahead of Comat before they hit the kink. So Jakubowski takes the lead over from Bill Comat. Good run out of the keyhole. And he will take the lead away. Comat slots into second. Chris Green third. And these guys are well out of front of the rest of the pack. They're just pulling away right now. Now Comat coming under fire from Green. Green wants that second place spot. And we can see a little bit farther back that Evan Brum has moved into fourth. So he'll try and break away from that second pack and catch up with these leaders. Brum was, as we saw, was third last year. Last year was actually his first year of racing anywhere. He was a rookie last year, did a great job to finish on the podium.
Yeah, that number 17 car, he's out of the southeast region where he was the champ down there with 5 wins.
Yeah, he absolutely dominated the southeast region this year. And very strong this weekend as well. And we can already see Jakubowski starting to open up a gap over Comat and Green.
Really the class of the field, Ernie Jakubowski in that number 91 car.
And one of the guys that we haven't seen too much of, but he's starting to move up, is Joe Hrymak, last year's champion. Started back, I think, in 16th place.
Looks like he's in 7th now.
That's right, yeah, he's moved all the way up to 7th, so good run for him. Once again on board with Chris Green, trying to close up on Comat as they head down the back straightaway. Move through the kink. Looks like Comat gaps him a bit down the straightaway. He may have a little bit more horsepower than Green does on tap. These cars, as we said earlier, are about 150 horsepower. They actually have a maximum horsepower. When these cars come in, they have to be no more than 146 horsepower on the dyno. They run the cars on a chassis dyno. And we were talking about Hrymak earlier. Actually, in Saturday's qualifying race, Hrymak was over the maximum horsepower limit, so he was disqualified, and that's why he's so far back in the field. Just one of the things that 944 Cup class does to ensure that, nobody goes crazy with engines, that expenses don't go up too much.
It looks like Green may have a little more control in the corners. What can they do to the suspensions, Clark?
They can't change the points, but they can put on aftermarket shocks. You can put on different springs or anti-roll bars. So there are some things they can do to tune these cars, but they aren't able to change the points. We're going to go to an interview we did with Joe Hrymak earlier. Asked him about how his week so far, kind of a rainy week, and how he felt about sort of how the field was shaping up for this year.
Well, the biggest thing was just to keep the car on the track for the first 2 days with the rain, because there were a lot of guys that went off, damaged their cars, so they're not able to compete. So it was just to stay on the track. We're lucky today that it finally broke out. It was a nice day. We're kind of tired of running rain tires and wet and have people flying off the track. But other than people going off the track, there was very little contact, so you got to give the drivers a lot of credit. There's a lot more competitors. As I said, there was Evan Brom, there's Bill Comat, Scott Bove. There's about 3 teams out of Canada that have come down, and they're all very, very, very fast. So it should be a really interesting competitive race. I'll probably be starting mid-pack. I didn't do real well qualifying today, so we'll see what happens.
And back to live action now with Ernie Jakubowski still leading the way. Looks like he's coming up on some of the slower Spec Focus cars now.
Yeah, and you can see that Brum is pulled away from Geary and Mason. So Brum has been able to break away from those guys.
And Jakubowski has made it past that first Spec car.
Yeah, it's a Spec Focus car.
That's Scott Lear, I believe, in that machine that he's just gone by.
And this is, we talked about this a little bit at the start of the show. This is kind of a key situation for these guys, is how you hit traffic. Because, for instance, if Comat is able to put a slower lap car between himself and Green, he could potentially open a gap and break the draft there. And so you have to kind of, balance, not, and we have a car going off there. Looks like Brent Gear slid off the outside of turn 1. He'll slot back in just ahead of Hrymak. At any rate, that's really something that these guys are going to have to think about, is balancing the risk they take in traffic against the possibility of it being able to open up a gap on a competitor. And one of the things we'll see is these cars are running a little bit quicker than some of the slower 944 Super Cup cars. Super Cup cars make more horsepower, they're faster down the straightaway, but not necessarily faster in lap time. So that can also be a challenge, passing a car that's quicker than you down the straightaway. And I think we'll see them start to catch some of those Super Cup cars later on in the event. Chris Green still putting the pressure on Bill Comat.
Really pushing him hard.
Yeah, Comat's running a really good race. He hasn't made any major mistakes, keeping his head on straight, and that's really a key. You can't, if a guy's chasing you like that, you can't let the pressure get to you too much. You can't let him force you into a mistake, because at this point it doesn't look like Green has the speed, the outright speed, to get around Bill at this point. So if Bill can just drive a good, clean race, I think he can hang on to that second spot.
And Ernie continues to lead. Jakubowski in the number 91 car. Top 3 drivers all out of Canada.
Yeah, there was, in the 80s, there was a series that was developed for these cars. It was the Rothmans Porsche Challenge Cup. And I think a lot of these Canadian drivers remember that series fondly. Some pretty famous Canadian drivers. Scott Goodyear, Ron Fellows came through that series. And so you see some of these Canadians today racing cars that may have been driven by their heroes. In fact, Hrymak is in an original Rothmans Cup car.
Now looking at things from Kenneth Smith's point of view, this is back in 11th, 12th, 13th. We see Scott Bove, our pole sitter from earlier on there.
Yeah, and Kenneth Smith running side by side with...
that's the 72 car of Brent Crowell.
Yeah, Brent Kroll. Kroll was actually the Hyperfest winner earlier this year. You can see Smith moved around Kroll down the straightaway.
Looks like they might have got into each other just a little bit.
Yep, right there. A little bit of bumping, trading some paint. Kroll able to get the spot back. Kenneth Smith actually is an employee of one of the sponsors of the 944 Cup Speedcast, Paddock Racing. I'd like to thank them for their support, along with Hardent and Manus Sport, which is Ernie Jakubowski's prep shop. Paddock Racing, a prep shop based out of New York. They take care of all kinds of Porsches.
Working on lap number 10 now of this 18-lap event.
And good racing between Smith and Kroll. Kroll very strong in the Southeast. Like I said, he won the Hyperfest event at Summit Point, which is a big race for 944 guys. And Smith is actually his first year in a 944 Cup car. He's a rookie in the series, so he's doing a great job. And you can see, this is a good example. Kroll probably hasn't been to Mid-Ohio before, not as familiar with the track as some of these other drivers, and even though obviously a very quick driver, not quite as fast as some of these guys like Comat who have been here before. Mid-Ohio is a very technical, tricky track, and it's tough to learn the first time out.
And we see Comat and Green racing there. Jakubowski's pretty much checked out from these two at this point.
Yeah, Ernie's built a solid margin. He can kind of relax a little bit, although we see he's starting to catch some other lap cars. I believe Shannon McHugh will be the first 944 car to be lapped. There he is, Jakubowski working around him. Next up will be Dave Dericola. Dave Dericola, actually the series director and the creator of the 944 Cup. There he is in that number 44 yellow and black car. Jakubowski will work around him going into turn one. And this is what we talked about. You see here, Comat is able to work around. Oh, and we have Smith.
Kenneth Smith ends up in the sand there.
Yeah, Smith sliding off. We'll see if we can get a replay of that from his in-car camera. Here we go. Chasing Kroll, as we talked about before. Oh, and just gets a little bit wide going into 9. And that pulls the back end of the car around. Unfortunately, he's able to keep going, doesn't get stuck in the sand. That's a real common thing to happen in turn 9. That corner is off camber on the entry. And you see here these yellow curbs they have on the outside of the corners tend to pull the tire up onto the curb. So if you get the tire on that curb just a little bit, it'll have a tendency to suck the back end up on the curb. And if you do that going into turn 9, you're going to spin. So
another rookie mistake, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about that. This is Smith's first year in the series, probably the first time in Mid-Ohio, and that's just one of those things he'll probably never forget. You never drop a wheel onto the curb going into turn 9 because you will spin the car.
You only have to do it once, and you've learned the lesson.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, he didn't get stuck. He didn't hit anything, so it's probably the best way to learn.
Comat and Green have made it past Dericola, and the next car to challenge will be Evan Brum to get by the lap traffic of Dave Dericola.
Yeah, that was a good move by Comat. Comat was able to use Shannon McHugh and Dericola as a bit of a pick and opened up just a little bit of room, a little bit of breathing space on Chris Green doing that.
Chris Green's not going to let him go, though.
No, Green is very quick into the carousel. You can see he closes right back up on Comat. I think Green is actually a little bit stronger than the brakes than Bill is. But that's what Comat has to do. He's got to continue to work traffic, get around that traffic in key spots, and hope that he catches a break when Green doesn't, and potentially give him just a little bit of breathing room.
Now, how much is Comat watching his mirror at this point? With Green putting pressure on him, is that affecting the way Comat is driving the race?
I'm sure it is. You can see Comat running a little bit of a defensive line as they enter 2. He stays towards the middle of the track there. But we don't see him blocking hardcore anywhere, and we don't see him blocking into 4, which is really the key passing zone. And like I said, he's quicker down the straightaway. Right here we can see he always opens up a little bit of a gap on Green, whether he's getting a little bit better run off the keyhole or possibly he's a little bit closer to that horsepower limit that Green is. Whatever the case may be, Comat is able to open up a gap there, and that really is the best opportunity for Green to pass. So as long as Comat's quick in that section of the track, even if he might be a little bit slower than Green lap time-wise, he's able to relax.
And they head down into Thunder Valley one more time. Ernie Jakubowski still leader here.
Yeah, and Jakubowski is starting to catch a couple of the Super Cup cars, which could create some problems for him if he isn't able to get around them. And we're going to drop back to Evan Brum. Brum having a very good run. Slowly catching that second and third place car. And Brum, you know, I love watching Evan Brum because he just drives the wheels off of that car every lap. Every time I see him in that car, that thing is sideways and just smoking tires and locking up brakes right and left. But he hangs on to it. He's got really good car control, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So Brum now works his way through the keyhole onto the back straightaway.
Evan Brum finished third here a year ago.
Yeah, he had a really good run a year ago. Also, I think we mentioned Southeast champion. So now back on board with Chris Green as he tries to close up on Comat.
Chris Green driving the Team Harden car.
Yeah, Team Harden we mentioned is one of the sponsors of the Speedcast. Harden actually is an electronic design firm based in Quebec, and so Chris Green has the opportunity to drive with that team. Doing a very good job this weekend.
Formula Ford racer from Canada.
Yeah, that's right. It raced Formula Ford, and we see him in a closed wheel car. He's also a karting standout. We see now that they've caught up with, I think that's John Mock. Next car to go a lap down to these guys. And they'll slip by him easily.
These cars, these drivers are pretty gentlemanly when it comes to passing. They seem to, they see the leaders come and they make way for them.
Yeah, absolutely. They, as I said, this is a tight-knit group. All of them paddock together. In fact, I think there's probably 10 or 15 cars here under one tent. So they do a good job of making sure that everybody's a good time. Now we see Jakubowski just moved around Greg Lewis, which is a Super Cup car. And I believe that's Jeremy Jatzik is next in that green 944 Cup car. That's a lap car.
The 141 car goes down a lap to Jakubowski.
And then next up is Norm Mandel, who is another Super Cup car.
It goes to show you how Jakubowski's car is really set up running well to track down these supercars.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really hauling the mail right now. Running laps quite a bit faster than the rest of the field. And we can see how much he closes in on Mandel through the S's in the back here. Mandel working his way around a slower Spec Focus car. And this is what we talked about. You can see that Spec Focus car blocking Mandel a little bit. Jakubowski's got to be real careful here. He's got to get around both of these cars. He does not want to lose the lead that he's worked so hard to build. But you got to be careful, too. You see, he puts his nose inside of the 86. Now to the outside of the carousel. Tough place to pass.
I believe that's Chris Kisner in the 125 Spec Focus car.
Yep, that's Kisner just ahead. So now the Mandel will go to the inside of Kisner. Jakubowski's going to go to the outside. They'll split him down the front straightaway. And then Jakubowski's going to try and move around Mandel, hopefully going into the carousel or into the keyhole.
Once again, seems like his favorite part of the track to set him up for the pass coming into the keyhole.
Yeah, and you can hear him kind of yelling a little bit inside the car, he gets a really good run out of one. But this is the tough part, is they'll get onto the back straightaway and we'll see the Super Cup car.
More power
absolutely
down the
more
back
horsepower,
straight.
And he just pulls away. And that's the tough part for Jakubowski. Do you risk dive bombing the guy under brakes? Do you try and pass him somewhere else? He knows he's got to get around Mandel. Otherwise, that lead will disappear. And now we can see that Greg Lewis
challenging back.
Yeah, Lewis trying to get, and that's the last thing Ernie wants. Fortunately, Ernie's able to work around Mandel. I think Mandel backed off a bit going into 4. So that was helpful for Jakubowski to put those 2 cars between himself and Comat.
Now that could extend the lead over second-place Bill Comat at this point with those lap cars in between.
Yeah, and you can see Comat was able to close up a little bit because of that. But not enough to challenge Ernie at this point. And now Ernie's moved around those cars. He's got 2 more spec Focuses in front of him, and then clear track for a bit.
Now, Chris Green seems like he's been hung up by the lap cars at this point, and Comat putting a little distance between those 2.
Yep. So next on the list for Jakubowski, it looks like he's going to be catching Lowell Marks, which is in that red spec Focus just ahead, and then Scott Lear is in the white car just ahead of Marks. And the spec Focus is, they're on the track with these guys, but it's a separate race entirely. They are not racing each other for position. But obviously the spec Focuses are having their own battle, and they, just as much as the leaders in the Cup category, don't want to be messed up by the Focus cars, the guys in the Focus class don't want to be messed up by a faster car coming through their race. So there's kind of a give and take there. And one of the things we see is that the spec Focus drivers sit higher than the 944 cars are, and they tend to turn a little bit later. It's a front-wheel drive car, a little bit different driving style, and that can lead to some misunderstanding, shall we say, as the 944 cars are working through traffic.
You see, really, as they come down the road there, you see that really the difference in how high the cars sit off the ground.
Yeah, spec Focus cars are a lot higher, and fortunately for Jakubowski, he was able to work around both of those guys in good passing spots. But now that puts Comat in a position where he's got to find a way around Kisner and Marks through the S's, and he's going to be anxious to get that done because he knows Chris Green is not too far back. We'll see he pokes his nose inside here. Oh, and Comat and Marks get together. Marks sideways. Comat's going to be slowed way down. That's going to allow Chris Green to catch up. Green's going to take a look on the outside of Comat going into 11. Side by side into 11. Green sliding wide. Comat's going to hang on. And now Green may slip back into the clutches of Brum. Green just slid wide in 11. That allowed Comat to get the spot back. And that's going to allow Brum to catch up and challenge Green for third. So 2 laps to go. Big shake-up in the front runners as Comat gets together with one of the spec Focus cars, and that allows Brum to close up, and we have a 3-way fight for second, third, fourth.
That's really where the race is now, is for second, third, and fourth, and now Brum up on the inside of Green, looking for the spot, looking for third place.
Lock up by Green, and Brum is going to take that spot away. We'll go to a replay in just a second here of the incident with Comat. So here we go, on board with Green. See Comat looks to the inside of that slower spec Focus. They get together.
Did the spec Focus car even see him coming there?
It sure doesn't look like he did. I don't think he even realized Comat was there. And then Green drops a wheel off, going through 10, side by side into 11, and just not enough room. He slides out a little bit. Doesn't go off, but slides out in the marbles. And once you go out in the marbles like that, it's easy to get some pickup on your tires, and it actually affects you for a couple of corners. I think that's what we saw there. It affected Green's handling enough for a few corners that Brum was able to close the gap and move on by.
And now you see Evan Brum leading Chris Green.
So now Brum looking for another podium finish 2 years in a row. But Chris Green is not going to give this up easily. He's going to try and fight back if he can.
And Jakubowski will be taking the white flag right about now. Here comes Comat, Brum, and Green, your top 4 at this point with 1 lap to go.
So last lap on the racetrack. Green trying to close the gap through turn 1. Comat well out in front, in second easily. Wheel drop off for Brum. Now on board with Green. Looks to the outside of Brum as they go into turn 2. Jakubowski solidly out front. We know he's going to win this thing if nothing goes wrong.
Once again, is lap traffic going to be a factor here?
It may be. It looks like they have a couple more cars to catch. I think the next car is going to be a 944 Cup car of Sumida. And so, yep, we can see Comat negotiating around Sumida there going into turn 4. That was the best thing that could happen to Comat. Gets it done before the S's.
Not really any other places to pass before the end of the race at this point.
Yeah, this is going to be tough because Brum will catch Sumida in absolute worst place possible going into 8, 9, 10, and that's going to allow Green to catch up. Brum takes a look to the inside.
Oh, and Brum locks it up.
Oh, Brum sideways. That's going to allow Green to get the run. Side by side going into 10.
Brum not giving it up.
Side by side through 11, and Green's going to get the spot back. Brum with the wheel hop.
Boy, Brum is pushing that car hard.
We'll wait for this. Is going to be Jakubowski crosses the line. Side by side through the carousel. Brum fighting back, but Green's going to take it. Green finishes third. Brum's
dips
going
to
to
the
end
inside,
up fourth.
and exciting finish for third place.
Man, what a race. So Jakubowski comes home with a dominant victory. Bill Comat second. Great run for him. And then a fantastic battle the last couple of laps for third. Chris Green's going to end up on the final step of the podium.
Well, that's going to wrap up some great 944 Cup racing. Let's have a look at the results.
So Ernie Jakubowski is going to come home with the win. Bill Comat has a great run to second. Chris Green will finish third. Evan Brum with a great battle to finish fourth. And Joe Hrymak comes back from a mid-pack start to finish fifth.
In the 944 Supers, Joe Kroll Jr. finished first. Brad Waite was second. Norm Mandel got third, and Greg Lewis finished fourth. I'd like to thank again our sponsors, Paddock Racing, Hardin, Manasport, and Toyo Tires. And on behalf of everyone at Speedcast TV, thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in for the next race from the NASA Championships, American Iron and American Iron Extreme.